In 1992, in Zhejiang province, China, villagers began pumping water out of a group of local ponds. What they expected was mud, fish, and stone. What appeared instead was a doorway into something much larger, a man-made underground world of massive chambers, carved pillars, sloping walls, and thousands of parallel tool marks. The Longyou Caves are real. They are not myth, rumor, or a lost city invented for the internet. But more than 30 years after their rediscovery, one question still holds. Who carved these caverns, and why did history leave so little behind? The Longyou Caves are located in Longyou County in Zhejiang province, eastern China. Today, they are known as one of the region's strangest archaeological and engineering sites. Large artificial caverns cut into sandstone beneath what had long looked like ordinary ponds. For generations, villagers knew of deep ponds in the area. Some local stories reportedly described them as unusually deep, but as long as they stayed full of water, nobody could clearly see what was underneath. Then, water was pumped out. As the level dropped, the shape below the ponds stopped looking natural. Stone steps appeared, openings appeared. Finally, the scale of the hidden chambers became visible. These were not caves formed only by water and time. They were excavated spaces, human-made spaces, large enough to feel architectural and regular enough to suggest planning. That is the first hard fact. Whatever their purpose, the Longyou Caves were carved by people. The site is often described as a group of more than 20 artificial caverns, with several developed for visitors and study. The best-known chambers are enormous, with high ceilings, broad floors, and irregular but carefully worked forms. Inside, the most striking features are the walls and pillars. Many surfaces are covered in repeated parallel marks. They look like chisel or pick marks, laid down in rows, following the contours of the stone. The marks appear across broad, visible surfaces, creating a texture that is both practical and almost decorative. The chambers also include massive columns or pillars left in place. These seem to support the ceiling, which means the excavators understood that removing too much stone could be dangerous. Whoever made them had to manage volume, stability, drainage, access, and the risk of collapse. Even if the simplest answer is quarrying, and quarrying is a serious possibility, the engineering still deserves respect. Here is where the mystery sharpens. For a project of this scale, we might expect a clear historical record, an inscription, a workshop document, a local chronicle, a builder's mark, a royal order, or a later tradition that names the purpose. So far, there is no widely accepted inscription inside the caves that simply says, "This is what these were for." There is no surviving label that closes the case. That absence does not mean nobody knew. It means that if records existed, they have not survived, have not been found, or have not been confidently connected to the site. This is a common archaeological problem. Stone survives, wood decays, rope disappears, workers' names vanish. Everyday knowledge often goes unwritten because, at the time, everyone who needed to know already knew. For the people who made the Longyou Caves, the purpose may have been obvious. For us, the obvious part is missing. Many popular accounts suggest the Longyou Caves may be very old, sometimes associated with periods more than 2,000 years in the past, but this is exactly where caution matters. Carved stone is hard to date directly. You can date material found inside a cave, sediment layers, organic remains, or historical references, but the stone surface itself does not come with a timestamp. If a potsherd is found inside a chamber, it can help. If an organic sample is sealed in a layer, it can help. If a document refers clearly to the site, it can help. But each clue has to be connected carefully to the actual moment of excavation. So the safest statement is this: the Longyou Caves are believed by many researchers and local accounts to be ancient, possibly dating back many centuries or more, but the precise date and sequence of construction remain difficult to prove with certainty. The most grounded explanation is also the least sensational. The Longyou Caves may have been quarries. A quarry explanation fits several facts. The caves are artificial. Large amounts of sandstone were removed. The repeated tool marks could be extraction marks. The chambers may be the negative space left behind after useful stone was taken out. Ancient societies needed stone for building, infrastructure, waterworks, tombs, walls, roads, bridges, and other projects. A quarry is not a boring answer. A quarry of this scale still requires labor, planning, and organization. But the quarry theory has questions of its own. Why underground in this particular form? Where did all the extracted stone go? Can nearby structures or historical projects be matched confidently to the stone source? Why were the surfaces worked so consistently? None of those questions defeat the quarry theory. They show why the theory is plausible without being complete. A second group of theories treats the caves as functional underground spaces after excavation. Large underground chambers can maintain stable temperatures, they can store goods, they can shelter people or materials, and because the Longyou Caves were found beneath ponds, water management has also been suggested as a possible part of their history. But again, a responsible theory has to match the evidence. If the caves were storage spaces, what was stored? Where are the residues, containers, written records, or repeated installations we might expect? If they were shelters, who used them and when? If they were built for water, were they reservoirs, drains, ceremonial pools, or something else? The caves may also have changed function over time. A place can begin as a quarry, become a storage space, fill with water, become a local landmark, and finally become a modern archaeological site. That possibility prevents a false choice. The question may not be, were they quarries or something else? It may be, what was their original purpose, and how were they reused afterward? Some theories ask whether the Longyou Caves had a ritual, symbolic, or social meaning. This is possible in the broad sense. Ancient engineering was often not purely practical. A space could be useful and meaningful at the same time. A chamber could store goods and also mark status. A quarry could provide stone and also become part of a sacred landscape. But ritual explanations need evidence too. Offerings, images, inscriptions, patterned deposits, architectural alignments, or strong cultural comparisons. Without that, ritual can become a label for anything we do not understand. So the honest version is cautious. Ritual or symbolic use cannot be ruled out as a later or secondary role, but it should not be treated as proven unless stronger evidence appears. Whatever the purpose, the engineering is the heart of the mystery. To carve a large underground chamber, workers had to remove enormous volumes of stone while leaving enough material in place to hold the ceiling. They had to work in limited light. They had to manage spoil removal, tool wear, labor, air, water, and the geometry of each chamber. The pillars suggest the excavators were not simply following stone at random. They understood support or learned it through experience. Underground excavation forces organization. Mistakes can be fatal. The repeated wall marks also raise a practical question. Were they the natural result of the tools used? Were they left because smoothing the surface further was unnecessary? Or were they part of a deliberate finish? We do not have to pretend to know. The important point is that the marks are evidence. They are the closest thing the workers left to handwriting. This is also where we have to say what the Longyou Caves are not. They are not evidence for ancient aliens. They are not proof of a vanished global supercivilization. They do not require laser drills, anti-gravity machines, or secret technologies suppressed by archaeologists. Those ideas may get clicks, but they do not explain the site better than human labor, local geology, and organized excavation. They also erase the most impressive part of the story. Ancient people were capable. The mystery is not whether humans could carve the Longyou Caves. Humans could. The mystery is why this particular effort was made, how it was organized, when exactly it happened, and why the explanation did not survive clearly in the record. That is a better mystery than fantasy because it asks us to take the past seriously. The Longyou Caves remain unresolved because the evidence is real but incomplete. We have the chambers, we have the tool marks, we have the location, we have modern surveys and engineering observations. We have hypotheses that can be compared against the physical record, but we do not yet have the one piece that would make the story simple: a secure date for the excavation, a clear contemporary text, a confirmed destination for the quarried stone, or a pattern of artifacts that proves a specific use. Future work could change this. A better geological comparison might connect the sandstone to a known building project. A sealed deposit might give a stronger date. A newly studied local record might mention an excavation. A 3D survey might clarify the sequence of carving. Most archaeological mysteries are not solved by one dramatic revelation. they are solved by small pieces becoming harder to ignore. Until then, the most responsible answer is not, "We know nothing." It is also not, "We know everything." It is this: the Longyou Caves are large, artificial, carefully worked underground chambers. Quarrying is the strongest practical explanation, but the full story, date, organization, original purpose, and later use, is still not fully settled. There is something powerful about a place that is both obvious and silent. The Longyou Caves do not hide their human origin. Every wall says work, every pillar says planning, every mark says repetition. They are not natural caves pretending to be architecture. They are architecture carved out of absence. And yet, the people who made them remain almost out of reach. We do not know their names. We do not know the exact orders they followed. We do not know whether they thought of the caverns as a workplace, a resource, a protected space, a meaningful landscape, or something that combined several of those ideas. What survives is the result of their labor, and a question large enough to stand inside. Maybe one day a better clue will surface: a text, a date, a matching stone, a sealed layer, one small piece that turns the cave from mystery into history. Until then, the Longyou Caves remain one of the rare ancient mysteries where the evidence is not too small, it is almost too large.